In Paris is Yasser Louati, who's a French human rights and civil liberties activist with the Justice and Liberties for All Committee. Yasser, thank you for joining us. How common is an incident like this? I mean, presumably, if this kind of footage hadn't existed, most people wouldn't know the circumstances that killed Cédric Chouviat.
That's exactly what makes us worry, is that today police brutality is being recorded by cell phone holders. And what happened to Cédric Chouviat happened to many other people. We remember Adama Traoré. We remember the case of Wissam El Yamni. As a matter of fact, Wissam El Yamni in the city of Clermont-Ferrand was literally tortured in the police station. Then they said he suffocated. Now, what this exposes is a police in front that is out of control and that knows that this highly unpopular government does not have the luxury of questioning its practices. As a matter of fact, as people are marching against police brutality and the absence of accountability, police officers are marching, listen to me carefully, to have the right to choke people. And even one of the police officers said to his lawyer, "I'm going to end my life because I am being banned from choking people." This is the kind of police we have today in France. And Emmanuel Macron, unfortunately, in his last speech, only said, we stand by our police force. The political message here is that you may die, you may be maimed at the hands of the police. What matters is that this police is protecting the regime. That's it. Move on with it.
Okay, what about the issue of race? When you look at the numbers, very well documented in the United States, Black people, African Americans, minorities are much more likely to suffer at the hands of police. What about the numbers in France? Do they exist? Because I understand France has some kind of rule about collecting data that's based on race.
Yeah, but several studies ranging from the Ombudsman, the Defender of Rights, and other human rights organizations, they all come to the conclusion that if you are Black or Arab, you are 20 times more likely of being racially profiled, which means 20 times more likely of being brutally arrested by the police, and 20 times more likely of being killed at the hands of the police. And so far, nobody is taking these figures correctly. Now, we have to go back a step further. If you remember the Yellow Vest movement, the Yellow Vest movement showed that the police brutality that has been attacking the Black and brown bodies in the banlieue now are attacking white bodies in the center of Paris. And this is when police brutality became a national debate. And even with that, Emmanuel Macron and his government are not showing any sign of willingness to listen to what people are saying. People have been maimed. They lost their hands, their eyes, their teeth, their lives. And we have a police force in France that is out of control. Did you know that in France, the IGPN, the supervising body of the French police, is held and directed by the police themselves without any intervention from the justice system or civil society. So you have ex-police officers policing their former colleagues. How in this condition you can create a situation where police officers are held accountable? And unfortunately, the case of Cédric Chouviat has only been the case that we saw on tape. And he's been shouting to his last breath, "I can't breathe," just like Eric Gardner did in New York or George Floyd in Minneapolis. Now, the question is, how far can we go with this French police? Or is Emmanuel Macron willing to question the very same force that's protecting him for the popular anger today?
Okay, so what's the solution in terms of passing legislation that would stop this kind of thing happening? Because there are two different issues, I suppose, here. First of all, how the law can stop law enforcement acting like this, and also the mentality of those in power who might have a mindset that actually things shouldn't necessarily change too much. And you have Donald Trump as an example in the United States, who says that my executive order will ban chokeholds, but only in certain circumstances, which sounds like a half-hearted commitment.
Well, if I have enough time, I'm going to take 1 minute. The French police was born under the fascist regime of Vichy. Okay? Vichy and the regime that stood by Hitler. And the first accomplishments of the French police was first to deport Jews, the rounding up of Jews in the 1940s, and in the 1960s, the killing of hundreds of Algerians on mainland France. This is the police we are dealing with. And when the police force became, a national body after the colonial struggles, former soldiers in Algeria became police officers, and they perpetuated their lost war in Algeria. With this mentality, and I agree with you, you cannot legislate to change people's minds. Nevertheless, and we are working on a call of the Justice and Liberties for All committee that I had. First, we have to dismantle the IGPM, the supervising body of the police. We have to include the defender of rights. We have to include magistrates and organizations from civil society so they can offer a balanced point of view. The second point, the prosecutor must be independent. In France today, the prosecutor is nominated by the executive branch of power, which means there is no separation between the judiciary and the executive branch of power. The third point is that the Minister of Interior, that heads the police, has much more means than the Ministry of Justice. And the last point, we have to end the militarization of the police. We do not need assault rifles in the French police. The doctrines of maintaining order have to be reviewed, which means when protests happen in France, today police officers, they no longer have to stop the protesters, they have to chase them and run after them, hence the higher number of casualties. And the other point, we do not need the rubber bullets. We do not need tear gas. And as I said earlier, we do not need assault rifles. And a psychological evaluation must be implemented when police officers are hired. It is quite outstanding that 52% of law enforcement officers vote for Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader. And this tells us that there is a great, unspoken truth that we know how racist the police is in France from its inception in the 1940s to this day. And we are asked to believe that the police is about any criticism. No, we have a colonial republic with a colonial-like law enforcement agency called the police or the gendarmerie. The solutions are here, sir. We know what it takes to disband this militarized police and turn it into a force of protecting civilian lives and not becoming militarized for this protection of an unpopular regime.
Yasser, thank you. Yasser Louati in Paris.